Hello friends and welcome back. You are watching day 7 of our 12 Days of Christmas in July series. Remember, if you're just getting started, you can check in the description for links to the first 6 days so you can get caught up. And if you're new around here, welcome. I hope you will consider hitting the subscribe button to join our crafty little family. So for today's project, we're going to make a version of an envelope flip book. And this was inspired by my poor planning for another collection that I picked up. I wanted to create envelopes with it, and then I realized when I started scoring I was going to wind up with cards that were upside down, so I had to switch the collection. And then when I had it switched, I decided, well, we'll just do a whole different project with it. And so here is my version of an envelope flip book, and I have created lots of pockets here with A2 size folded inserts. There's plenty of room for pictures and journaling and all of the things that you like to include in your mini albums. There's lots of pattern paper layers as well as beautiful journal cards with the gorgeous holiday images. This is a very simple book to create, and you can get through quite a lot of your pattern paper collection, as I try to do, so that I don't have it hanging around for the next holiday season and then I want to have something new. So I want to use it all up and move on to the next thing. So this is what we're going to work on today. And for today's question, I wanted to know if you guys are messy crafters or clean crafters. So my room does get quite messy when I work, but I have it fairly well organized and I can get it picked up very quickly between projects. And I always clean between projects because I'm just more inspired to create when there isn't clutter around. I know some people have all the supplies close to them and tucked away, and it inspires them to have everything out where they can see it. And for me, it's just the opposite. I really like to have a nice, clean, clear workspace to create on. So let me know in the comments if you are a clean or a messy crafter. So let's get started on our tutorial. For today's project, I am going to be using another Echo Park collection. This is a Perfect Christmas. This is the 12 by 12 collection pack that has the sticker sheet included. I'm also going to be using my regular size scoreboard as well as my envelope punch board. And I'm going to be working with my jelly bean green cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse to create the base. It's nice and thick and sturdy, and I created 2 envelopes using the instructions on this guide and cut it as directed and scored it where it was intended. I have 2 of these envelopes created, and the finished measurement is 4 3/4 by 5 5/8, and I've got 2 of those to add to my cover, and the cover is 10.5 by 5 5/8, and we're going to wait to score the spine until we get the envelopes on, because it helps to get that a much better exacting fit so that the book will fold properly. So I'm just going to assemble these envelopes. I'm going to tuck the flap into the envelope before I seal it up. This is going to act as a pocket when we get it adhered to the base. So I'm just going to line this edge up with the outside of the cover and make sure that everything stays nice and even and level. This is going to become the sturdy support that the book will need. And then I'm going to flip that over and add the other envelope with the pocket going out again. And this time I did finish this ahead, but we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So just to make it a little bit faster to get through the video, I went ahead and did the steps for this side already. It's very important to get that straight and even as you're working along so your book will fold properly. Okay, now I'm just going to bring that around and line it up so that the end of the envelope falls on a score line, and I'll just score right along there. And I'll flip it over because it's easier for me to see. I'm right-handed and I can get a better score line close to that envelope. And now we have a perfect spine that will fit those envelopes on the side. So now you can see that's going to be quite sturdy and thick. So we're done with our bigger scoreboard at the moment. And I want to include an insert to help fill this gap here in the middle. And it is going to be the same green cardstock. It's cut 10 inches by 5 5/8. So that's the same height as the cover. I'll score it at 4 3/4. And then again at 5 1/4. That will leave me a 1/2 inch on this spine. And I went ahead and punched these holes already. I just created a little scrap of paper to be the same size and then folded it in half and punched that hole. And then I flipped it over so I was able to get the measurements exact on both sides. And then I did add a little bit of score tape, and that will hold it in place while we punch the holes. So I'm just going to make sure this is very well centered. Then I'll come back in with my crocodile and repunch that hole for both sides. And I also want to include some eyelets here, the string from pulling through the book. And I think it'll be nicer to have the finished edge on the outside. So we'll just press that in the tool. And do the same for this side as well. Now we've got our insert added so we can fill in the center section of this book as we go along. Okay, so now what I want to do is dress up the pocket here with a little bit of the pattern paper. And I've got my piece cut. I want to add a little bit of this pretty sticker border on before I adhere it to the book, just so I can easily trim it off and it'll be exactly the length that I want it to be. I wish I had a whole booklet of this scallop plaid. It's so beautiful. Then I'll just clip off this portion here and line this up with the bottom of the pocket. So we have that pretty scalloped edge right on top. And as you can see, I've done that for the other pocket as well. So now I want to include these belly bands on the inside of the book. These are just going to hold additional inserts. So I've got my pattern paper and I'm just going to add that here to the inside of this page and then wrap my belly band around the page. So this is 2 inches by 7, and I came up with the correct score lines the same way by holding the page up to my scoreboard and then giving myself 2 score lines on either side so that I would have it scored exactly where I wanted. And then I put my double-sided adhesive on the back and tip that over, and this will be sandwiched in between the base and the other pattern paper that I picked for this side. It matches the pocket and it's easier for me to get this lined up if I turn it toward myself, and that will hold the tabs for that belly band in place. And then finish off that band with a strip of that pretty diagonal check pattern paper. So my inserts are going to basically be 4 A2 size cards. So I cut my paper at 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 and then I scored it at 4 1/4. So this is a basic standard A2 size card, and for my pattern paper the measurement is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I'm going to alternate some of these patterns. I want the insides to match because they show together. And this was a really good way to work through a very large chunk of the paper from that collection because we have so many inserts to cover. I really like this collection because they put the stripes and the plaids on one side and the florals on the other. So it made it nice to alternate them and get use out of the offcuts as I was working along. And so I'm going to use the more geometric pattern on the outside, this diagonal plaid. I have one for the cover as well, and as I mentioned, this is going to be 4 A2 size cards to fill in the pockets and the belly bands. So what I want to do to get a little bit of extra room in the book and then also add those beautiful journal cards that go with the collection is just to include these as a tip-in. So I'm just going to secure the tab for that on the back and have it captured between the book and the pattern paper. I just finished the inside of that with a complementary pattern, and I'll add this here and then top off the base layer with a layering pattern. That will be the same exact design for all of my inserts. Now I've got two for the left hand side of the book that open toward the left so that they will work in these pockets and open properly. And then I've got one for the band as well. And then I have two for the right hand side that open toward the right. So our envelope is a pocket and our belly band is a pocket. Look how nice and chunky and thick that is now. This is a good time to add our twine before anything else. So we'll just put a generous amount through and loop it around a couple times, and this will help to keep everything nice and secure. For this book, I'm going to add my bow on the inside. If you want to put it on the outside of the spine, you can do that to include some charms or bells or some kind of decoration on the outside, but I've got a bow planned for my closure, so I didn't want to put that many bows on this small of a book. So I'm going to put this tied in the inside. I put that really good and tight so that it will help to secure this book. That will be a nice spine for that section. And then let's go ahead and just finish the back now. And then, like I mentioned, I want to have a ribbon closure so that all of those inserts will be safely tucked inside. This is the time to add this before the front so that you can capture that ribbon in between the layers. And I'm just cutting off a generous amount of this beautiful checkerboard ribbon. And I will tack that on with a bit of hot glue just so it will stay where I want it. So now onto the cover, and I've got the same pattern that I put on the back, and I'm going to just add this layer to the bottom of the beautiful floral on the dark background. Instead of cutting my typical white doily, I decided to cut the pattern paper with this lotus oval. This is a nesting die that I picked up from Gina Marie Designs, and I just used that die to cut my pattern paper. I think that looks great. That's kind of a nice way to add extra detail. Here is my Santa from that sticker sheet. So I've added it to sturdy cardstock so that it will hold the shape well. And then I put the Santa on my foam tabs from Scrapbook Adhesives. He's just going to go basically centered there. That one has a little bit of dimension. And for the sentiment banner, another sticker from that sheet, put on cardstock again. This time I have a little bit thicker foam tabs so that it will be a little bit more interesting. And here is my floral arrangement. Now I want to just kind of hold this in place to make sure that I position this banner so that I'm not covering up any of those words. Then I'll just go ahead and add my flowers now. This is an arrangement created with a little birdie craft flower as my anchor flower in the middle. It's a little bit larger and more dimensional. I've put a couple of white die cut poinsettias, then my loopy twine bows, the die cut holly, and then I put a couple of die cut stars here just to help fill in that arrangement. And then here is my charm. I'm gonna wait till I put this on the cover before I add those. Okay, there is the cover put on the book. I'm just going to add these as I always do with some string. Then we can tie this book up. If you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure that you come back tomorrow for day 8. Leave me a comment and a big thumbs up for this video. Remember, you can find links to these products as well as our social media sites in the description below. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day. And I thank you so much for watching.